how quickly can things fall apart? How fast can trust just evaporate?
Mm-hmm.
Think about Westeros, right? Power changes hands almost instantly sometimes.
It really does.
Today we're looking at George R.R. Martin's A Storm of Swords. It's the third book in A Song of Ice and Fire, and it's massive. This discussion also draws some inspiration from the kind of analysis you might find on channels like Mindful Moments. Over on YouTube, they do AI book analysis that really gets you thinking.
Yeah, A Storm of Swords is definitely a critical point in the series. The scale is huge, the emotional impact. It really pushes the War of the Five Kings somewhere completely new.
And all those different perspectives, 11 viewpoints.
11, yeah. It gives you this incredible sort of multifaceted view of what's happening across Westeros. So our goal here is to try and, pull out the biggest shifts in power, the really key character changes, and the main themes that make this book so pivotal.
Okay, so let's start with the political situation. At the beginning of the book, things are already pretty messy, right? Who are the main players still fighting for the Iron Throne?
Well, you've got Joffrey Baratheon sitting on the throne in King's Landing, backed mostly by the Lannister-Tyrell alliance now.
Right.
Stannis Baratheon is licking his wounds on Dragonstone, planning his next move. Robb Stark is still king in the north, fighting down in the Riverlands.
Mm-hmm.
Baelon Greyjoy over on the Iron Islands, he's declared himself king too. And then, across the Narrow Sea, there's Daenerys Targaryen gathering strength. Plus, the wildling threat beyond the Wall is becoming, much more serious.
Okay, let's talk about Robb Stark, the young wolf. His story takes a really dark turn here. What happens?
It really does. Probably the catalyst is his marriage to Jane Westerling. Personally, maybe understandable, but politically disastrous.
Because he broke the deal with the Freys.
Exactly. That marriage pact was a cornerstone of his alliance. Breaking it is seen as a massive insult, a betrayal, and it leads pretty much directly to the Red Wedding.
Ugh, the Red Wedding.
Yeah. So they arrange for Edmure Tully, Catelyn's brother, to marry a Frey daughter to try and patch things up. But it's a trap. Under the guise of this wedding feast, the Freys, working with Roose Bolton, they just slaughter Robb, Catelyn, and most of their key northern supporters.
Just brutal. Wipes out the Stark leadership in one go.
Fundamentally changes the war, just like that.
Catelyn doesn't exactly stay dead, does she?
No. About 3 days later, she's brought back, sort of. She becomes Lady Stoneheart, cold, vengeful, leading the Brotherhood without banners, just focused on killing anyone linked to the betrayal. It's pretty chilling.
Wow. Okay, switching gears to King's Landing. The Lannisters seem to be cementing their power with the Tyrells.
Yeah, Joffrey's marriage to Marguerite Tyrell is meant to seal that deal, big celebration planned. But things don't go quite as planned for Joffrey.
He's poisoned at his own wedding feast.
Right. Chaos erupts, and Tyrion gets blamed immediately. Cersei points the finger straight at him.
And Tyrion demands trial by combat.
He does. And he finds an unlikely champion in Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper of Dorne, who has his own reasons for wanting to fight Sir Gregor Clegane the Mountain.
That duel is intense.
Incredibly intense. Oberyn almost has him too, but he gets maybe a bit too focused on getting a confession, and the Mountain turns it around brutally. Oberyn dies.
So Tyrion's condemned, but Jaime helps him escape.
Yes, Jaime frees him. But before Tyrion leaves King's Landing, he confronts his father, Tywin. And he finds out the truth about his first wife, Tysha, how Tywin orchestrated this horrible humiliation.
Oh, right, that whole story.
Yeah, and he also finds Shay, his former lover, in Tywin's bed. The betrayal, the years of being belittled, it all just boils over.
So he kills Shay.
Then he finds Tywin.
On the privy, yeah, and kills him too, with a crossbow. It completely fractures the Lannister power base from the inside out. The hand of the king, dead by his own son's hand.
Okay, let's cross the Narrow Sea. Daenerys. She's making big moves in Slaver's Bay. Big moves, definitely. She needs an army. She goes to Astapor, sees the Unsullied, these elite eunuch soldiers, and she makes this incredibly clever, ruthless deal.
She trades a dragon, or pretends to.
Pretends to. She gets control of the Unsullied and then immediately orders them to kill their former masters and free all the slaves in the city. It's a huge statement.
Establishes her as the breaker of chains.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She then takes Yunkai and Meereen, liberating slaves there too. But it's not all smooth sailing. She discovers Jorah Mormont was originally spying on her for Varys in Westeros.
That's rich.
And Sir Barristan Selmy, her loyal knight, Also reveals he served Robert Baratheon, the man who overthrew her family, so she's dealing with trust issues with betrayal.
And then she makes a really interesting choice.
Yeah, instead of just gathering her forces and heading straight for Westeros, which everyone expects, she decides to stay in Meereen to learn how to rule. She realizes conquering is one thing, but actually governing, building a just society. That's something else entirely. It shows a real evolution in our character, I think, from just wanting vengeance to wanting to be a true leader.
Okay, back to Westeros. The Wall. Things are getting pretty desperate for the Night's Watch.
Very desperate. Yeah. Jon Snow has been undercover with the wildlings. He learns a lot, gets vital intel, but it's complicated by his relationship with Ygritte.
Right, the whole you-know-nothing Jon Snow thing.
That's the one. He eventually escapes and gets back to Castle Black just in time for the massive wildling attack led by Mance Rayder. Jon steps up, shows real leadership defending the wall.
This is after the disastrous mission beyond the wall where the Lord Commander died.
Exactly. The Great Ranging, led by Lord Commander Mormont. It was a catastrophe. Mormont was killed by his own men during a mutiny at Craster's Keep. But during that ranging, something crucial happened.
Sam Tarly.
Samuel Tarly killed one of the White Walkers, with a dragonglass dagger. It's like the first real confirmation that these things can actually be killed, and how. Hugely significant.
Wow. Okay. And then, just as the Watch is barely holding on against Mance Rayder,
Stannis Baratheon arrives. Out of nowhere, really. His cavalry charges in, smashes the Wildland army, captures Mance Rayder, completely changes the game at the Wall.
And Stannis has an offer for Jon.
He does. He sees Jon's potential. He offers to legitimize him as Jon Stark, make him Lord of Winterfell, help him win back the North. It's tempting. Everything Jon sort of thought he wanted.
But he turns it down.
He turns it down. The Night's Watch holds an election for a new Lord Commander, and thanks to some maneuvering by Sam, Jon gets elected. He chooses the Watch, chooses his vows over personal gain. It's a massive character moment for him.
Okay, we've covered the big conflicts.
Yeah.
What about the other Stark kids? Arya and Sansa are going through a lot, too.
Oh, absolutely. Arya's journey is brutal. She's traveling through the war-torn Riverlands, sees terrible things, spends time with the Brotherhood without banners, then gets captured by the Hound, Sandor Clegane.
She even gets close to the Red Wedding aftermath, doesn't she?
Agonizingly close. She sees the Stark banners being desecrated. It just fuels her anger and her list of names. Eventually, the Hound takes her towards the Vale, but then she manages to get passage on a ship to Braavos, starting a whole new dangerous chapter.
And Sansa. She escapes King's Landing after Joffrey's death.
Yes, with Littlefinger's help. He smuggles her out and takes her to the Eyrie in the Vale of Arryn, disguised as his illegitimate daughter. There, she's under the control of her aunt, Lysa Arryn, who is, let's just say, unstable and obsessed with Littlefinger.
Littlefinger's always playing a game.
Always.
Yeah.
He manipulates Lysa, plays on her paranoia and jealousy, and eventually pushes her out the moon door to her death.
Whoa.
Yeah. It leaves him as Lord Protector of the Vale, with Sansa, now revealed as Sansa Stark, a key piece in his plans for power in a region mostly untouched by the war so far.
And Bran. Still heading north.
Still heading north, with Jojen, Mira, and Hodor. His journey is becoming much more mystical, focused on his green-seeing abilities and finding the three-eyed crow. It's delving deep into the older magic of Westeros.
So, pulling back a bit, what are the big themes you see weaving through all these different stories?
Well, family is obviously huge. Politically, with marriage alliances like Robb's Breaking Point or the Lannister-Tyrell match. But also personally, family honor driving vengeance, like with Lady Stoneheart, or even Tyrion's actions against Tywin.
Right.
There's also a real focus on women breaking out of traditional roles. You've got Brienne, the warrior sworn to Catelyn, Daenerys accumulating power and learning to rule, Arya becoming the survivor, developing deadly skills. They're all defying expectations.
Identity seems like a big one, too.
Definitely. Jaime Lannister losing his sword hand forces him to completely reevaluate who he is. Jon Snow struggles between his Night's Watch vows and his time with the Wildlings, his Stark heritage versus his oath. Arya adopts different personas to survive. Tyrion constantly fights the demon monkey image his family, especially Cersei and Tywin, project onto him.
And honor vows, oaths. They're constantly being tested.
Constantly. Jon tries so hard to keep his vows. Brienne's loyalty is almost absolute. But then you see the consequences when someone like Robb breaks a solemn oath. It has massive repercussions. And you really can't ignore the sheer brutality of war and its impact on regular people. You see it through Arya's eyes, through the Brotherhood without banners. It's not glorious.
And that line between revenge and justice gets incredibly blurry.
Oh, yeah. Lady Stoneheart is probably the prime example. Is what she's doing justice for the Red Wedding or just pure cold revenge? Arya's list, Tyrion's murders, where do they fall? The book doesn't give easy answers.
The way Martin tells the story, with all those viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
it really adds layers, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You get different perspectives on the same events, which creates a lot of dramatic irony. You know things some characters don't, and the plot is just unpredictable.
Especially the Red Wedding. Nobody saw that coming. Not on that scale.
It completely subverted fantasy expectations. Major characters killed off brutally midway through the book. It showed nobody is safe. Martin's really good at balancing the big picture, the world building, with intense action and really deep character work.
Looking back, what are the moments from A Storm of Swords that people still talk about the most?
Well, Tyrion's trial and everything that follows his motivations, whether killing Tywin was justified, that always sparks debate.
Yeah,
The duel between Oberyn and the Mountain, iconic, tragic, unforgettable.
definitely.
The Red Wedding, of course, its infamy is legendary in fantasy literature. Jane's confession to Brienne in the bath at Harrenhal, that moment where he reveals why he really killed the Mad King, it forces you to totally rethink his character.
A huge turning point for him.
And Lady Stoneheart, her existence, what she represents about grief and vengeance, it raises so many questions.
So if we had to summarize the absolute key developments, A Storm of Swords.
Okay.
Cool.
The Red Wedding effectively ends the Stark challenge from the north, for now. Joffrey's assassination destabilizes King's Landing. Tyrion's trial, escape, and patricide shatter the Lannister family's power structure. Stannis arrives at the Wall, becoming a major northern player.
Right.
Daenerys chooses to stay and rule in Meereen, delaying her invasion. Jon Snow becomes Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Littlefinger seizes control of the Vale, with Sansa as his key piece. And Lady Stoneheart rises, seeking vengeance.
It really feels like the major turning point in the whole series. Everything changes here.
Absolutely. Characters are transformed. The political map is completely redrawn. It's dramatic, it's brutal, but it's incredibly compelling.
Martin digs deep into these really complex characters, wrestling with morality, power, family, duty, survival, all the big stuff. It feels very real, despite the dragons and magic.
It's that moral complexity, I think, that makes it so enduring. Nothing is black and white.
Well, if this discussion got you thinking, you might find similar kinds of thoughtful analysis from sources like Mindful Moments or in our other explorations of complex narratives.
Yeah. A Storm of Swords gives you so much to chew on, so much to analyze about why people make the choices they do and what the consequences are.
Definitely. To make sure you don't miss our future discussions, please do subscribe. If you found this valuable, share it with others who might appreciate it. You can also consider checking out the links provided if you're interested in the book or related materials.
And most importantly, keep thinking critically about these stories, about the characters, the themes, and what they tell us.
Absolutely. Keep questioning, keep exploring. Thanks for tuning in.